very welcome to do so.
Дорогие друзья, обратите внимание, что у нас произошла настройка перевода на русский язык на радиоволне. Работает сейчас очень хорошо волна 87,5 FM. 87,5 FM – это частота перевода на русский язык. Пожалуйста, позаботьтесь о том, чтобы у вас было радио. Сейчас все будет транслироваться по радио 87,5 FM. И, пожалуйста, закрывайте окна, не открывайте их во время сессии, потому что кондиционер включили.
And if you would like to ask any question related to the subject to Venerable Jamgon Kongtrul Rinpoche, you may do so. And there is a paper and a pencil just behind, next to the entrance on the chair. So please feel free to use this paper and feel free to leave your questions over there. You can give them directly to me or Cecile, and then we will pass them to Rinpoche as well. So if you would like to ask any question from Venerable Jamgon Kongtrul Rinpoche, please use this papers and pen which is next to the exit on the chair.
И если у вас есть какие-то вопросы к Джамьону Контролу Ринпоче касательно поучений, которые он их дает, вы можете записать на бумажке на выходе из гомпы, там есть ящик, куда вы можете положить этот вопрос. Они все будут переданы Сесиль. Ну и попросите кого-то из друзей перевести вам этот вопрос на английский язык, если вы сами не можете.
And also, if any of your colleagues is using radio that are rented in here in the Gompa, because that's our backup story and that's our backup system, please kindly advise them to bring 1,500 rupees. 1,000 is a deposit and 500 is the cost of daily rental of this equipment. It's quite expensive, therefore we also rented it. It's not ours, so we're taking responsibility for this equipment. Therefore, there is this deposit required. No? Oh, we're not using it. Okay. Russian translation 87.5. Yes, Svetlana?
Да, русский перевод настроен на волне, на радиоволне. Хорошо все работает в любой точке гомпы, без помех. 87,5 FM. Радио, которые сдают в аренду на входе, они не настроены на частоту FM, поэтому, пожалуйста, группируйтесь, у друзей просите наушники или там, не знаю что. Ну, в общем, все работает.
Okej, to jeśli chodzi o polskie tłumaczenie, mamy dwa rozwiązania. Jeżeli nie macie problemu z używaniem telefonów komórkowych, to tłumaczenie na język polski będzie za pomocą internetu, czyli tak jak dotychczas. Wszystko powinno działać.
Bandage mago bazodage nyewa mago sume ba dada mande ba dongran dale nambando wa pungbo dale rabde nambando kamnam da mede ba kinje nan de ba de wa nan hinde je ba yongzo durwa dale nambando Sibalen Rowan Shawale Gawa Ishi Yongzon Zoban Debada Maja Bada Dada Jeve Sanje Jumden Denam Ishi Lan Neba Nyange Len Deba Mineba Yandaba Niji Dala Neba Simjen Tamjin La Sikbe Sala Shuba De Deda Ne Sanje Jumden Deje Geji Yunden Yandaba Na Zo Dambe Shane Damare Gewa Parde Gewa Damare Gewa Ten Zambo Zindu Zambo Mandemba Yonsu Zoba Yonsu Daba Yonsu Jawa Jamden Deje Chelik Brazon Yandaba Dongwa Nemeba De Chewa Meba Nyewa Dongwa Ten Tongwa La De Yamba Keba Soso range rebra jawa jamden deje sungwe chandruwa lekbra domba ngebra jo zobe chanjo don jawra jeba medemba meje dowa dan demba yo yowa jowa wa dingba jembo gendun ne lekbra jowa ringbra jeba dambra jeba tumbra jeba amoy jebe oz Chajebe Ozo Sonamje Parje Shin Yung Yung Son Jowa Jimbo Jimbe Nezon Jo Kunde Yan Jimbe Nezon Jowa Jimbo Jandra Wanda Jeje Shabanda Jeza Yaram Gye Zowa Gewa Junzin Dagi Jisoba Tamjin Zobe Janjo Jengo Saje Beje Junje Mendo Dambira Leje Nyende Nyemba Sanje Shindo Mede Burwa Yendroga Namda Yen Chubra Jo Zemje Namje Samba Loye Chedra Chedra Wa Cheja Tomo Deba Chuje Golo Gorondo Zo
Good afternoon. Bonjour. Yes, we are here. Yes, to all the viewers, I now to which verse did I? 70, 72. We're still within the verses where we are trying to recognize the faults, in terms of something like saying the alignment, if only we were aligned in a unique way, then things could be different, sort of thing. Basically, it all comes down to this very popular Tibetan Buddhist way of introducing Buddha Dharma, the 4 thoughts that makes us realize where we are, who we are, or something like that. So it's somewhere there. So in order to focus on the jhana, samten, this particular paramita, then this focus on the faults of not having, one could say some sort of the faults of not being calm, the faults of not being relaxed, the faults of not being concentration feels like an effort, The word, the moment we think, the moment we hear the word concentration, it feels like an effort, as if we have to strain our body, and then through it, even our mind, as if we have to, and it's part of it, of course. But already, if you talk about, or if you think about the meditation posture, it's quite clear. And in terms of if you have legs, how we could sort of train it, or and then if you have a back, then how we should, how we should or could have it in a particular position. In short, the most relaxing posture. And so therefore, it shouldn't really suggest that it requires effort, actually. It's very much coinciding with the previous chapter of joyous effort. And so therefore, it's not in any way hard work. But nevertheless, the realization of often it says "gen" in Tibetan, meaning faults. The flaws. It's just a figure of speech, of course. There are no real, truly existing faults. If that was the case, in some ways, probably one could say maybe we can diminish that through a medication, through intoxication, through effort. We can eradicate them, nuclear bomb, But of course, that's not the case. And instead, this eradication is through, or this path of eradication is coming through realization, through awareness, through recognition, through what I said in a very colloquial way of watching, or viewing through the sight, or one could use probably a higher word, through insight. Then maybe we can overcome it. Yes. So until the 80-something verses, early 80-something verses of this chapter, even though it's sort of trying to talk about it, or I often end up saying it, but probably I should say Shantideva is trying to lay, everything on the table in terms of helping us to recognize what are the faults, what are the well, it's not so much as fault, but how things are in a way. Particularly if you are born in a conditioned world, then often whether we have from a perspective of what is regular, normal, ordinary, healthy, to be able to walk on two legs, and so on, starting from that. I mean, we have terms like referring to the Shakyamuni Buddha as the greatest of all two-legged being, and within the analytical sessions, then we begin to be creative. So say, are we talking about chicken? Anyway, beside the dry joke, is to recognize, to become more aware of how a condition, so-called condition, socially accepted, recognized, because forget religion, spirituality, Buddhism, from what we would say just within, from a civilized point of view, and what we call normal. Normal, of course, it's all an agreement. More than 4 individuals becomes a society, and then that society can become larger and larger. And so from that perspective, then we will agree on very many things that we will call, well, this is normal, Meaning, we could we could be maybe ecstatic about something. We could be very sad about something. But then we have this idea of normalcy. I'm not putting it in the right way, but through that idea we can say we don't need to be too alarmed with a certain action or with a certain commotion or something. I mean, simply to have such words like commotion, to sort of tone it down, dial it down, to say that's normal, So you see, from that point of view, there's nothing wrong, of course, with this agreement. We're not trying to say we have to rebel against this idea of agreement. Nevertheless, through it, through this technology, then it's possible that it's sort of like a double-edged sword, and so therefore, through it, we could literally make ourselves numb in this case. Yes? So much so that when we now try to think about what it means to have jhana, we could almost feel or think that it's a method to become numb. So it's very, very strange. It's very, very intricate. So therefore, in short, the realization of the way things seem to appear, to realize them, and without this realization, then we cannot move on in this chapter. So that's where we are, all the way from the first chapter, talking about the quality and the benefit of generating bodhicitta, recognizing bodhicitta, to whatever extent we have tried to understand, So that's where we are. So, yes, I cannot stress enough in terms of repeating what I've said so far. Did you have enough time to read? Did you read? Yeah. And what about it? Very smooth? Very Swiss? Very sinister? What? Very salsa? Very sal? Very subtle? Very subtle. Okay. Subtle? No. Very sad. How do you spell it? Very sad. Okay. Very sinister. Very dark. Yes. That's what I was hoping for. Strange. Yes. Very strange. Yes. So, okay. Putting aside the dry humor, I suppose it becomes dry because it's sort of in cricket. There's a thing called there's a term called that shot is premeditative, and it's nothing really to do with meditation. It's just, for It's more like well, I suppose sort of being prepared. Not really prepared. How do we prepared? Yeah. Yeah, you decided. Yes, yeah. You decided. It's like you have made a choice. That's a very good one. You made a choice. Yes. You made a decision, a choice. It's basically a shot in the dark. Yes. Why? Because it seems popular enough. And so therefore we make a drastic action. Yes. So basically it's repetitive, meaning we are copying, we are someone's spontaneous reaction is being copied and so on. Yes. And so therefore dry humor, I suppose. Anyway, yes, I like that. Well, not that I like, but it's it's not a case where I'm hoping that it was sad reading the Bodhicaryavatara. And if I should put it in a positive way, then I hope it was, breaking down many of the imaginations that we've had about life. Yes. So I hope that was the case, and if you interpret that as sadness, then by all means, we can do that. Yeah. So, of course, once again, we can be very premeditative, meditative about this thing, and so much so that we turn it into an institution, one could say, an institution of sadness or something like that, and then have the sort of there are many figures of Shakyamuni Buddha during his ascetic practice, where he looks extremely bony and think that that's it, and to almost sort of try to personify that image of renunciation and so on. I think during the ascetics, I think Siddhartha must have had a terrible time. He wasn't realized. He was having a horrible time. He was hungry, cold, all the things that he thought he knew didn't make sense. And but then, of course, going more into that direction, then we could think the part of acceptance of the milk porridge is the other extreme, to think that it's, once again, pleasure is okay, and so on. And so therefore, it becomes always like this. Yes. And so it's probably the only term that we have right now is sadness. Yes. But we have words like renunciation, to words like dissolving, breaking through, moving on, and so on. In English, of course. In Tibetan, then the most common word is ngenjung, ngepar jongwa, meaning that it's sort of like saying you become extremely intimate with a certain circumstance or condition that you know that you have the greatest confidence to simply let go of it, because now there is no aspect of it where we could have some kind of hope. Yeah. And now later, after the 80-something verses, we will come there. The idea of hope. When we begin to talk about something, jhana. When Shantideva tries to define the nature or how to put ourselves into the mood of now focusing on the good side of things. I mean, that's not a word I should use, but on the meritorious, enlightening, liberating, awakening aspect of things, you know. So hope is one of those. Yeah. So it's like realizing that there is no hope at all, that utter desperation sort of state. Yes. But I don't know, certain disease has caught on, or certain calamity has taken place, and now there is no way to the idea of realign or relink or regain. I'm just using English, even though I don't know English. But this emotional way of using language, you know. I think a Tibetan colloquial term is Gyalwa. Yang meaning it's almost hopeful sort of term. Gyalwa as in Yangja, as in sort of to go back to that good state, to that good old state sort of thing. And so, no, in this case, there's almost this complete realization that it's all those ties are sort of severed. You know? Probably severing ties probably still gives the notion that as if there was something, you know, there was the other end that could have been severed or something. But no, in this case, just pure, simple, no hope, it's all gone, it's all into the past or yesterday or something. So, yes, sadness is probably a very simple term and good enough to get into this understanding. Yes. So, okay, now where were we? 72. Yes. So I will read a few verses in Tibetan. Doding yamba kajing nirang leji yonto do chimdo wane chepila rodan rawa nyawache kachik chido nyomo da ringdo sume dunga chen pamendo chen pemen nam chukro lu chan tomen jo dadun dala pende namo be kando nido zonwa yang tema topar teme be jenji leji longki de ala rangyo lu zancho ome jenji koji do chumang da jang bojo na shindong gombara babab jong ndobe lupe lemba dan sonde sowara chawa she sonde soktor do jin yodun juk 기절 텐던 로버죠. 너들라라 루젠제 같이 사신질라죠. 같이 동통다거나 같이 세보다잖아. 사도 송도 라베 동와 노노 본던타에 셔버죠. 올라 차베 용어 주번 수비동을로 까메던 너들남나 텔라서 니밍망나 노총데 싱다 렘비 초다게 자는 카면 저바진 주기 좀나야면 건데 노총 강인 되던 단주 분섬년간데 레전나와 남주준 도방에 버진 신야라서 보라 동주보 침범을 주도고 두비 세정가인 바대이 제외 차점제 세계 선진연름 노된 장조 주법 동헐칠라 장점 야소 동화 섬주는 대반남나 차선나 도단 매단 양사다 남지전 빼매빼 대다른 돌라 주지들 엠발았네 가와 저던 요몬지도 시베 나지 나노도 가덴도 찐된지서 야면돌라 강산연고와 담메시베 노노요와이 제나편데 심진 첩버지 강동 신종 부다 강도 주전되는 시 영전 소멸 동안은 대범면 법원에 라원 제진 참여나 강당 있는데 제매바 조신대주 강인보 원백견는 되니까 tel라 소변는 뭐 왼배 연대 선진은 논단이와 시원데 장제 선로 공부전 다단전 젠도 년반에 당본이 덤베도 고대단 동한년배는 탐제다지 송화자 라볼라서 예원나마요 용수 송젤로서 찍받다 대전로와 타델데도다 탐제다진대반다념직. Yes, so then yes, the 72nd verse. Probably it's almost like as if Shantideva was talking about particularly our time, you know. Yes, it should be quite interesting, the English version. A child is not able to earn money when one is a youth. With what is one happy? The prime of one's life passes away in making a living. What can an old person do with sensual gratification? That's 72. Some debased sensualists exhausted by a full day's work, okay, 73rd, sorry. Exhausted by a full day's work, come home in the evening and sleep like the dead. Yes. So, it almost feels like as if he was able to see through time or something. So, yes, that's pretty much how I don't know how most feel, I suppose, you know. For one could say it's for the sake of society or the greater society, and then one could say that it's also for the immediate society, and so therefore one has toiled from early morning, from the state of a zombie, you know, all the way. One has worked 9 to 5 or more, 9 to 5 still sounds nice compared to how one could say workaholic people are here in this continent, in this part of the continent. That it's possible to say that someone who is working is almost asked to have multiple personalities in order to carry out the various responsibilities. Anyway, at the end of the day, they come back and that's it. There is no room for any productive thing. There is no celebration of one's hard day's work in the form of a proper feast or something, According to this, it's pretty much saying instead of a proper cooked dinner, it's the microwavable items. And that's still a luxury because one is so tired that one cannot even celebrate the microwavable things. And one just simply hits the couch, as if one is dead. So, from that aspect, it is as if we feel that we are nothing but a servant. We are nothing but living in that life from all angles, starting from our immediate society, then all the way to the greater and greater and greater society, to the greater society. Therefore, then we feel that we think of words like society or the council or institution or words like government, becomes such as if it's a separate entity, and therefore it's sort of now forcing me to do all these things that I don't want to do actually. Yes. Anyway, we can use these verses in all sorts of manner to simply talk about what is known as the fault of samsara, or the nature of samsara. That through very, very simple actions, simply due to the lack of jhana, due to the lack of awareness, then you could almost feel that, why on earth am I here? Why am I doing this? And alienate ourselves further and further from something so obvious, actually. It's through very simple details that has caused all these sort of, what we would say in simple terms, misunderstanding, miscommunication, and therefore even I'm so saying all this at the moment in a very everyday context, So therefore, the idea is that, I thought we were friends. I thought we were companions. I thought we were partners. I thought we were family. I thought we were friends, and so on. All those begins to be very, very doubtful. Yes, simply through, in very, very colloquial terms, I would say, check and balance in a way. Meaning, I suppose there is a reason why we have, why we use technologies to remind ourselves of, I don't know, of the day's schedule, the purpose of it, and so on. It's sort of like I wouldn't say it's awareness, of course, in this case. It's more of an analogy. But nevertheless, through that, then we are able to recognize, well, hopefully recognize the simple details. And therefore not have any kind of lack of understanding. But now, from that perspective, then in terms of how, I don't know how far it goes, how far it goes into this idea of how this experience of confusion comes into being, it's unbelievable. That to a point where all we can say from a Buddhist point of view is to somehow say that all of this is just karma, all of this is just le, and then maybe be able to just, crash into the couch to think that, all this is just karma, it's my karma, it's others' karma, it's our collective karma, and just as if it's just a means to say, that's it. So, then of course, once again, the next day we wake up, and before we know it, whether we think it's healthy or not, either way, we are just simply driven into being, as I said, like a servant, to get into the mode of our duties. We have words like duties. And then once again, the whole cycle begins. And all this, what is it for? At the end of the day, we may have very interesting labels, as to say, for our retirement, for our future, for our next generation, everything that sort of comes with the idea of next, next, next. And all the while, all of the precious human sort of conditions are just simply wasted. So, have any one of you some thoughts that you can share? Yes. There. No, yes, at the back. Yes.
Thank you. I would like to know something about the page 125. I know it's rooted in this patience chapter, and I know that it will be answered in this verse 118, but I would like that you go on a bit about this page 125, where it's about the eye, you know, the sense of an eye.
Okay.
I mean, I know we are not there yet, but I hope.
Page 125, yeah?
125. No, 125 is the page, and the verses are on this page, also several verses about the eye. Thank you so much. Yeah, 111, 12, 13, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
About the body also, and
So the verse is 112? I mean, yes?
12, 13, 14.
Okay, 12, 13, 14, okay. And so why not identify another's body, clinging it as I, and vice versa? Why should it be hard to think of this my body as others, perceiving now the false possessed by I, the ocean of good qualities that are in other? I shall lay aside all love of self and gain the habit of adopting other beings, just as hands and limbs and other sort of as members of a body can we likewise not consider others as limbs and members of a living whole? Yes. Of course, that's where it begins, I think. After foregoing all the preparation, then in terms of now how we should focus on the jhana. Yes. So in short, it says it focuses on first to see that simple terms that we are equal, and then from that state of equanimity, then to exchange. Yes. So it begins from there. It's a sort of summary of it. Yes. Okay, so your question is?
yeah, so I give my. It starts all with this patient. There's also, sometimes when I open the book and ask for answer, then I get always the same pages.
Okay.
And it's a good advice. So I like this because it's impartial. And I want to, with this, what do you think about this?
I think it's
eye?
good.
No, I mean with this eye and so on. What? Tell me more about this.
Yes. Probably in the case of yesterday's verses, where probably we needed a comedian to explain the verses better. In this case, in these few 1 or 2 verses, probably we need a politician, probably to explain better, how we are all the same, how we need to have a very strong sense of unity, and sense of nationality, and so on. So you see, Buddha never really shied away from anything, actually. But in any way, he never said, I'm a comedian, or I'm a politician, or I'm a doctor now. Today I will be your marriage counselor or something. Nothing of the sort. But nevertheless, he never denied anything. Yes. And so, yes, to talk about the sense of as if we are all sharing the same pain, the same burden, I don't know, a politician would do a way better job, I feel, really. Yeah. Spiritually speaking, we can still talk about it, but it'll just feel that been there, done that, you know. Yeah. I don't know if it is because one is maybe too sober, or the opposite of it, or something. Sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it just doesn't. Yes. But yes, there is that feeling as if that we could go to the extreme by saying something like, this is romantic, you know. But I think probably the simplest one is that of a single parent's love for their only child. Yes. In that situation, then probably there is simply no room for race or culture or religion or attraction or anything. All of those social boundaries are completely stripped away. And therefore, you know, whether the father was a good man or not, or anything of that sort. I mean, in this case, I'm not trying to promote, you know, single mothers or anything like that, and to say I know, you know, but it's a universal thing, isn't it? Yes. Because in that instant, without having to talk too much about the Buddha's compassion or shunyata or anything of that sort, in there, then that person, which we would call mother, is a very and that mother can be anyone, you know, someone who was not prepared to become a mother, someone who never even dreamed of becoming a mother. Or could be the opposite, someone who thought, I can be the best mother or something. But when that moment really happens, and you're really left alone to look after this thing, you know, at the time he or she doesn't really matter also. Yes, it's an it. Yes. I don't know why I'm using the word it. Maybe it's because of my Tibetan mentality or something. Yes, but I think it's appropriate to say it, and it's not in any way demeaning that being, you know, to say, oh, it's an object or something like that. But that thing is nothing, almost. Way worse than an animal. Yes. Like I said in the past few days, animals are far more independent. From the moment they are born, they can already protect themselves, they know where to go, they know how to sort of look for food, and so on, yes. But it's this human one. It's a horrible state, I think, yes. Because the so-called celestial beings or realms, they are known as having miraculous birth, and and therefore, again, they don't have to worry about society, IOU. Animals, pretty much the same. There is no real IOU. Yes? It's only within this human condition that there is a sense of IOU. And it's strange that this IOU, the first instant of IOU is probably coming from the mother, strangely. Even though, what does she have to owe? It should be the other way around. Yes, actually. But that thing is in no state to say, I owe you. So instead, one has given everything, 9 whole months, I'm speaking average-wise, has done everything, and then still feels that I owe it in a way, because all kinds of now logics that what one has had so far, we begin to utilize them almost intuitively. To say, we can say I'm in pain, we can say I have pain, I have headache, I have stomach ache, I'm hungry, I'm cold, or it's burning. And so now we look at this thing, and it cannot say or communicate in any way. The only thing that it can do is just simply cry. So, therefore, I don't know what happens. I'm not, in this case, trying to say good mothers and bad mothers. I'm just simply talking about that one most natural thing, or common thing that we can all think about. And so there, I think what happens, or what seems to happen, is that there's almost that feeling that what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, there is no gap, it's the same thing, And of course, Shantideva's method is very profound, of course, which is regarded as one of the most unique ones in terms of the application or the method of generating bodhicitta. That instead of focusing on the IOU, which is another method, yes, very, very precious method also, very gradual method, but in here he just breaks through all of that. And so therefore, seeing that it's the same, that's not the right word. The direct translation would be Da as in me, Yen as others, self and others, Nyampa as in equalizing, yes, equalizing, good one, yes, be equalizing. Not equalize or equalized, but equalizing, yes. It's just a technology. And therefore, one doesn't have to feel guilty about thinking self or me or other, It's like saying, wonderful, wonderful, hooray, that at least I have a name for it. I have a name for this feeling of, not necessarily in this case, sadness, but one could say sadness in a way. The sadness that I feel for this thing. And then to put it in a practical way, to box this, and then to say me, in that thing, as others, And so therefore then, not really to say link, but somehow to feel that for the fact that I can call me it's only coming through seeing this thing now for the first time. I can see me, through this thing called others. And therefore, have it equalizing. It's an equalizing thing. It's an equalizing factor. And it's so powerful, yes. So powerful that simultaneously, through that, then it's almost as if you are drugged or something. That you lose the sense of direction or compass, and the only sole thing that you can think of is the betterment of this thing, and nothing else. And so then it's very, very powerful. Yes. So probably that's why these particular passages are very thought-provoking, meaningful, makes us think. Yeah. Okay. Yes. No.
So, I have two questions. One general about the text in Shantideva's literature.
Yeah.
And second, general about you.
Okay.
So yeah, first question is about the text. We've spoken a lot during last days about the importance of transferring meaning and losing some meaning when we translate it from one language to another. So as I understand, this text was written like in Sanskrit or something, not Tibetan. And nevertheless, you've chosen this text out of other, I guess, great texts written initially in Tibetan to work on. So my question is why? Because definitely we can understand that something was missed during translation from original language to Tibetan, which we use as a root text. Yeah? So if you can explain why, it would be nice. And second question is about you. So actually, almost in each meditation, when we do invocation of lineage of transmission, there are some recalling of Karmapas as all-knowing, omniscient, yeah? But very often we hear from you on some questions we don't know. So I have some confusion. So why you often say we don't know, despite everywhere we read that Karmapas know everything. Always.
Very good. But I have some questions about the first question. So, what did you exactly mean in terms of from the Sanskrit and Tibetan translation?
So, as I understood, original text was written in Sanskrit and then brought to Tibetan and translated into Tibetan. So it's not like, and during this translation, something could be missed. I mean, the meaning, because you gave an example that translating into English definitely brought to text some different qualities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So I guess that something could happen during translation into Tibetan.
Yes.
And there are a lot of great literature originally written in Tibetan.
Yeah.
So my question is why you have chosen this specific text rather than other texts available in Tibetan?
With better translations.
No, just originally written in Tibetan. So some masters who were Tibetans and they...
Why not
like Karmapa, for example.
Explain directly from Sanskrit? Or? No?
Why Shantideva, yes. Why this specific literature over others which were not translated but originally written in Tibetan?
I don't know. It's on the organizers. They chose it. Yes, I would not be in the position to say, even when the actual words that was actually spoken during the time of Shantideva, when it was translated in time into Tibetan, if there were certain qualities or meanings being left out, it's possible, very much. Yeah. And so, similarly, now we translate from our translation, then even more, yes, for sure. Yeah. Sure, I can talk about, I can forcefully choose a subject like the jewel ornament of liberation by Karmapa, yes. But for Gampopa to talk about his literature is obviously based on the original compositions, like, for example, that of Shantideva's teachings. And without these literatures, there will never even be a Tapotarjan, as it is known in Tibetan. There wouldn't be one at all. Gampopa would be happily talking about how to make, nice tsamba porridge, and that's it, Or maybe he could be a good doctor still, a very famous doctor. That's what he was known for in his initial life, a great physician. But maybe the first few books of his on physician could be quite a breakthrough. I don't know, Tibetan culture maybe. But his 7th or 8th books on becoming a doctor can be very depressing. That since he lost his wife and daughter, and not being able to save them, even though he was, during his era, the greatest doctor ever, and therefore become a story like that. Yes. Anyway, that's the whole point, I think, in the case of why we are still trying to understand the original works, the original artist and their works, even though we may have so-and-so translation. Yes. That's it, yes. In the case of the Karmapas, yes, they are. It's strange to say they are, but I personally feel very comfortable to think that all the Karmapas that we have known are great Bodhisattvas. Yes. Maha Bodhisattvas, meaning great Bodhisattvas. And it's not just their incredible biographies that we are able to read and therefore think, wow, that's nice, But I personally feel that it's undisputed, that they are great beings, simply for the fact that they have had the chance to understand all of these literatures. And for those who have had such opportunity, eventually will be amazing characters in a way. Yeah. But in this case, not necessarily the fault, but but the case is that in Tibet, the idea of reincarnation was a little too exciting. Whereas in India, during, for example, the time of Shantideva and so on, I think the idea of reincarnation was like, so what, sort of thing. Yes. And so therefore, it was too normal. Yeah. They needed more. Tell me something more interesting, sort of thing. Yeah. It's like almost like as if our era right now is actually very, very backward, actually. Whereas that particular the Shantideva's time and so on, up till the era of Atisha, Master Atisha, it was a golden era, one could say, because it was so advanced, actually. Yeah, so much more advanced than now. Yeah. And so therefore, meaning the intuitive level was so high, yes, even to the general public, that so much so that the idea of reincarnation was no big deal. That's why the story of, I think, Chandrakomi was, not Chandrakirti, but Chandrakomi was very interesting because he had a bet with, before he came to be known as Chandrakomi, another Bodhisattva, he had a friend who was a little bit not too convinced about reincarnation, and so therefore then they made a bet and said that if I can convince you about reincarnation, then maybe you join in my curiosity, And he said, "Fine, I will do that." So then I forget the detail, whether he left a mark on the hand or on the forehead or on the tongue. I don't remember. I mean, there are so many stories like that. Yes, but he kind of gave a description like how we would think in terms of what we hear about the 16 Karmapa. That he was able to say, okay, at a certain time, at a certain place, then someone will be born, something will happen, as if it's a prophecy, So, like that, then the person who would become the so-called famous Chandrakomi then left all the traces, and then he kind of, not exactly committed suicide, but he passed away. Yes. Let's say natural death. Okay. And so then now this friend was very intrigued because all the information was given. Pretty So then he went, traveled all the way to find a particular village, family, and I'm pretty sure that this family thought, there is a weird guy, Every now and then he's peeping through our fence, Anyway, after some time, 2 years later, all that sort of thing. And then, yes, they had a baby, of course, this family. And then he was very curious to find out a lot about this baby. And this baby showed so many signs, I think, yes. And all the proofs that he said he will give were given, yes. And so therefore this friend eventually became someone who was very interested in the idea of reincarnation, with what we would call became a Buddhist or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, the reason why I'm talking about this is because in those days, yes, the idea of reincarnation was very normal, yeah. And to be able to predict about the next hailstorm and all that was no big deal. Yes. Or the next El Nino or something, you know. So I think to the what we would say succession of Karmapas, you know, it's to the Tibetan people it was very, very fascinating for sure, yeah, because Buddhism is still sinking into the mentality of the so-called barbarians. Because I think there was, I don't know, 300-400 years before, way before Buddhism arrived in Tibet, because China was, of course, very advanced equally, yes. In which way we cannot say, besides what we know from the known history, of course. But nevertheless, it was already establishing quite a lot in terms of its social structure and so on. And so I don't know which book I read, but there was an account where one of the patrolling generals happened to sort of pass by the Himalayan regions, because now that's sort of like a no man's land, of course, you know. And so they happened to just look across the, I don't know, or whatever region of Kham, or I don't know, overlooking the Tibetan plateau. And all they could put in their diary was to say, well, these are very interesting tribes, you know. And it's strange that as soon as one of the eldest sons, once they reach into their adulthood or adult age, which was maybe in their 19th or 20th, I mean, once they become 19 or 20 or something like that, then they become the head of their family, you know, of this tribe, you know. And then they overtake the father, and then they become the leader of their clan, and so on. Yeah. But that's all they could put down. Yeah. Beside that, they couldn't see much. Yeah. And but they were sort of very tough and warrior-like people. But beside that, nothing much. I'm sure they must have had songs and lots of other shamanistic rituals, of course, you know, like with many other tribes. But that was about it. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not saying take my word or take that documentary's word for it, but nevertheless, it kind of makes sense. Yes, the way we like to think that we are a unique race and so on. We talk about some advanced form of chimpanzee, yes. And but how compassionate that chimpanzee was, and the female chimpanzee was naughty and so on, and that's why we have a good side and a bad side, you know, and so on. Yes. So I don't know. Probably it's just stories, but it is safe to say that Tibetans were still taking a lot of time to understand what this Buddhism is, and from that point of view, it's not that, of course, they were completely illiterate in the idea of causality or reincarnation, you know. But nevertheless, from a civilization's point of view, in terms of its development, mental development, it was still very, very fascinating. Yes. And so therefore, because the first way of Buddhism in Tibet, it didn't really focus too much on the idea of reincarnation in terms of, well, probably it just didn't need to, yes. but I don't know, something happened during the time of after the parinirvana of the first Karmapa or something. Something just came up. I don't know what happened. Yes, and so therefore the feeling that my teacher needs to survive, need to survive. You know, he needs to live on. And yes, that's what happened. Yes. And I'm not saying Kamabakshi sort of found himself in a very strange situation, you know, not in that sense, of course, but yeah, he could see that that's the state of now this particular generation of so-called Tibetans are in, and there's no point arguing with the stubborn people. Instead, just nod along, you know, go along with these people, you know, and say, are you Dusum Champa? And like I said yesterday, for a truly realized being, to them there is no difference, of course, you know, in terms of saying, I am you, you are me. Why? Because we share the same spiritual teacher, but somehow we are a bit of a cousin because some of our spiritual teachers didn't get along or something, you know. So not in that sense. It's from their sense, it's that they know, in this case, like according to the previous question, that we are able to look at every sentient beings in a way that is either your own or that sentient being or those sentient beings, whichever we put it in a grammatical way, that they are it, you know, and you cannot think anything beyond that. And so therefore, for their sake, to say, yes, I'm your mother, you know, even though you may be not the biological mother, you may be a stepmother, foster parent or something, but you just simply say, yes, yes, baby, mommy is here, you know. Yeah. So, in that sense, yes, that's how the idea of succession of Karmapas came into being. I think, yes. And then they know that, of course, that this is all, each of the succession of those Bodhisattvas know that, yes, you know, all of this is just an illusion, you know, but in this case, a useful one. And it's not like, you know, they are trying to sort of constantly plaster this conspiracy in a way, you know, not in that sense also. You know. And they know that at some point, when this thing grows up and begins to realize that all of this is an illusion, then we will not go through some sort of a trauma of thinking, this was all a lie, you know. So instead of going through that, they will all see that it was a skillful means, you know. And now that I'm also growing up, I can also see that it was all an act of kindness, nothing more. And now I can also see that I am the Karmapa too, sort of thing. Yeah. And if that's not the case, then what is the point of Guru Yoga? Yeah? So it's something like that, I feel. Yeah. And so, therefore, to me now, to complete your question, is I'm still very, very curious. Yes. I'm still, in this case, one could say, fascinated. That, wow, you know, how come that these great bodhisattvas are able to work with such courage. And yet, not to say that they are doing this with all kinds of, being on a sense of mission to save the universe or something like that, but at the same time, they were very cool about it. They were able to read certain Karmapas wrote and said that, there were these Karmapas, and each of them were a succession of certain mind stream and so on. But then again, there are those puzzling parts where certain Karmapas didn't say anything. Didn't say anything really prominently about whether, tell me it's all the same or something like that, And so therefore, there are interesting gaps in between, yes. But nevertheless, one thing is for certain is that it's not to say they are all separate beings or one being that got scattered, and now they are all trying to become one or something, nothing like that, yes. It just wherever there are things, like those babies, yes. Then according to its benefit, or now one can say maybe his or her benefit, or their benefit, then yes, the Bodhisattva just sort of, or that bodhicitta one could say, just manifests, in various forms. Yeah. So now the Tibetans, we Tibetans, yes, not we Tibetans, we are still at a stage, even though we have inherited so much Buddhism, being able to translate so many wonderful things, nevertheless, our generation now is still having a lot of challenges. Yes. Maybe we're at a precipice of breaking through these barriers, maybe. Yes. Maybe we are. But still, we are somewhat little stuck. So therefore, I don't know. On behalf of all Tibetans, I don't know. Yeah. That's funny. Maybe not ha-ha funny, but funny. Yes? Same question? Yes, please.
So I have a question from the streaming from some of the viewers, and one is a little bit related to this question.
Yes.
Because a few days ago, Your Holiness, you said about the old generation of teachers that some teachers are gone and will not come back.
Yes.
And will you kindly explain a little bit more about this? And is it like some teachers are gone, meaning some enlightenment awareness is gone and lost on the journey? Is it something like this?
Yes, good one. Yes, thank you for asking that question. Yes. So, probably, and now in this case, I have to maybe confess, maybe, yes, that it's those comments that I made were probably from my own emotion, in a way. Yeah. Maybe it's my own hang-up, of thinking of making for myself maybe, making the Buddha Dhamma even more precious or something. Yes. Of course, it's not like suddenly there was a terrible solar flare. All the satellites were wiped out, and the cloud data wiped out. So now it can no longer reincarnate into our gadgets. It might sound something like that, but no. Maybe certain way of communication is probably, as we say, out of date. Not because it's not valuable or it's not going to make sense anymore, but it just doesn't seem to make sense, I suppose, to a certain set of mentality or culture. Whatever be it, things like, we can say things like maybe we are lacking certain merit, we are not good enough, or something like that. But nevertheless, yes, that kind of era is that kind of beautiful, beautiful era is well, for the time being, it's gone. It's simple. That's what I feel. Yes. To you, I don't know. Maybe you have still, not to say still, maybe you have a way to see for yourself in a timeless way, That's completely up to you. But from my point of view, or for myself, I feel that, well, those beautiful things have disappeared. And I have this serious doubt whether in my generation or in the coming generations, whether we will have the enough merit to be able to see such activity, such expression again. Yes. Personally, I feel it's going to be very, very rare. Yeah. But to you, you don't have to take my word for it. If you like my melancholy ideas, you can use that in order to make to focus more on the Buddha Dharma in a way that it will encourage you further. But it's also completely up to your own merit to be able to witness and host myriads and myriads of Buddhas, in your own lifetime, in the generations that will come after you. Yes, it's completely up to you. And I'm making all the wishes, aspirations, whatever we call it, to have that possible. Yes. Like I said, the very thing that I'm very proud of is my own merit, and I'm sort of using that merit to make wishes so that each and every one of you will have such merit that you will be able to feel that degenerate time, what? That this is the golden era, that you will feel it like that. Yes? And through it, then you will be able to benefit many, many beings. I'm making every day, yes, every day. Whether I'm eating or drinking or sleeping or walking or doing anything, I'm making wishes for that. Yes, and through for example, sessions like these, I know that I'm accumulating some merit, thanks to you, basically, not because of, let's say, me alone, but through our combined interest in the Dharma. I know that I'm extracting a lot of merit, from these situations, and that further strengthens my merit, and therefore I'm trying to dedicate that from the way I know, or the ways that my predecessors have shown me. And I'm doing my best to dedicate that so that every one of you will enjoy wonderful time. So yes, that's there. Well, not to say but when you have good health, when you have good wealth, don't forget to make the most of it, In this case, yes, on one hand, there is a place and time to be content with it and make the most of it. And then there is also another place where we use the word contentment to be lazy sort of thing. So probably that's something we should be aware of, So yes. Yeah. So from the other side, other rows. There, I think I haven't had.
Hello. 1, 2, check. Hello. Actually, very lucky because my question was exactly about what you just said. I thought I would have to rewind 3 days backwards to when you were talking about merit and sort of enlightenment as a tipping point of this merit. And it made me think of some kind of prehistoric bacteria, if you know what I mean. So this bacteria, through thousands or millions of years, it's just kind of evolutionary process. It becomes, I don't know, some creature with maybe a pair of eyes. But there's almost like no choice, or there's very little it can do in this process. It almost doesn't matter what it does. It still takes a long while. And so, but thinking of wisdom somehow as a means towards enlightenment or whatever seems more accessible in a sense that it's about somehow letting go, and it's something that feels relatable. While this crazy mountain of merit feels like very, very big. Yes, so that's my reflection somehow, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does there have to be a question?
No.
Okay, good.
It's a wonderful reflection. Thank you. Okay, the one with the Boy Scout. With honors. Caw.
Okay. Karmapa, thank you for teaching and answering questions. I was looking forward to ask this you for a while. Why do you think the big ideas of greater good or like ideal society ideas, why they always turn into such a mess? I mean, most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my question.
It's very kind of you to think that it's most of the time, but it's always the case, I think. I'm going through a lot of data, you know. Like I'm thinking all the places where Buddha has traveled, you know, Shakyamuni Buddha, the historical one, and then after his parinirvana, or after his passing, then how his thoughts were shared in various different parts of the world, you know, and how they seem to have diminished, you know, and so much so that now we feel that, you know, we are in a very, very small, tight little spot, yes, and we are kind of trying to take pride that it has traveled elsewhere, and is at a state of being germinated or germination, and the potential is there, but nevertheless, maybe it is not at its full state of growth, and so on, you know. And so therefore now, when I just think within that frame, all kinds of ideas appear in my head, yes. But it's funny, yeah. Things, discoveries, one could say. There are a lot of, I mean, we can discover so many things, and probably there's no end to it. And probably the best example is that of music, I think. Yeah. Once again, music again belongs to the humans, you know, to us. Yeah. Animals have no sense of music, I think, yeah, or even the gods. Of course, there are stories about the celestial beings here, you know, enjoying amazing, symphonies of this and that. Sure, it's possible, but their state is like being in a long haul of holiday. Yes, that during that holiday, no matter what sort of music you hear, what sort of delights are there, sensual things, after some time it just doesn't mean anything. Yeah. And the only thing you will look forward to is, what if this symphony breaks? You know, what if there was? What if the singer caught cold? You know, gods are more interested in that, yes? And that's kind of, I think, the not to say a sign, you know, for their downfall or something, you know, because we are talking about the wheel of life, yes. And so it's not a bad sign or something, but that's the only thing they can think of after some time. And so therefore I think it's sort of like, not to say a curse, but sort of one could say it's their karma or something, that they want to go through a cycle once again, you know. So therefore, I don't know why there is that sort of, maybe it's a culture thing, I don't know. and they say that they will begin to dream of being in a pigsty, pigsty, yes. And of course, when we talk about the wheel of life, then there is a pig, yes, at some point, yeah. So, I don't know, yes. Anyway, in terms of, I suppose your question is something to do with what is the downfall of humankind or civilization, or why does that happen, sort of thing, yes. So, yeah, it's a very strange thing. It's when you have too much, either, preferably you should be happy with it, you should be content and know, like it was said yesterday, know the limit and be appreciative. But somehow we cannot. We just want to peel away, further and further, till the curiosity kills the cat, sort of thing. So therefore, strip this, strip that, until something very provocative in a way, something that will make you, and then just go back. Yeah. So that seems to be the nature of it. Yes. As long as we are constantly depending on conditions. Yes. And so one way of talking about this chapter is to talk about, I think that's what it's doing. That's what Shantideva is doing. It's saying there are these so-called worlds, universes or realms. And it's going along, nodding along with the human psychology, one could say, or the mind's evolution or something like that. And so in terms of why does, certain school of idea or a certain idea of a proper society, why do they fall? This is all within the realm of a very coarse, within a world that is very, very coarse, very rough, It's not even a ball, It's more like a rock. Many say that if you remove the ocean from the earth, it's not exactly a sphere. Yes, it's more like a rock, piece of a rock. Yes, but because of the ocean, it kind of makes it look more spherical or something. Yes. Anyway, the point is that this is a very coarse, more coarse than anything. Very, very coarse, yeah. And so therefore, from all of the possibilities, because I think a Tibetan way of describing and naming this conditioned world is also sitpa, meaning possibility, in simple terms, I think. And so yes, and of all the possibilities, this is where anything can happen. It's the land of opportunity. So therefore, it's known as, the possibility of dreams or possibility of desire or something. But it's very coarse, meaning that it's not stable. It's not stable at all. It's very, what's the word? Volatile. Yes, it's very volatile. One day you can go up all the way, the next day you can fall, So basically the mind gets very tired of this volatile nature because it's too depressive, And so therefore a mind who is quite mature or beyond its, let's say, so-called its age, then begins to say, well, that's childish, and so begins to look away. So in your case, the question is coming from that, from that mind's aspect. To say, wow, this is so tiring, we can read all kinds of history, but it seems to repeat again and again and again, And if you keep this up, it'll just never end. And so therefore, then we or the mind then begins to look away. So this is one could say, natural, even though it's still conditional, but it's somehow natural. So is it the best thing? We don't know. Anything is still possible, We can still say, well, on second thought, So therefore, Shantideva or Bodhisattvas, what they are trying to do is, they think, this is good enough, why not? Yes, there are nicer things, if you look away. And so therefore then they are kind of being a chaperone, and slowly sort of guide them away. But in order that we don't get too comfortable in just simply looking away, and say, not my problem, and just walking away. Instead of doing that, then Shantideva or all these Bodhisattvas are constantly trying to talk about, the next chapter, or already within this chapter, talks about the merit, virtue, or namely bodhicitta, where we say the insight, the wisdom, constantly. To say that it's not to say the other side is better, but that's because to say the other side is better is just for our enthusiasm, So instead, it's not saying there's a third state or a third entity or third realm or something. Instead, it's just saying just this detachment, one could say, that itself is it. But the very fact that we are trying to detach ourselves is that itself is conditional, That very idea only came because I don't know, either we thought it was real, or we thought it has meaning, that I can hang on to this, that there's a sense of permanency or something, And so therefore, then almost immediately, then talks about, what was it? Talks about this thing, this little whatever it is, which seems to have a tail, you know, like some sort of fish-like or animal-like tail, but slowly that tail gets reduced. Not necessarily turns into a frog, but nevertheless, you know. So then the more we think about this thing, then it helps us not to get completely absorbed or enter into a deep state of sleep, you know, because one is so tired of this coarse busyness that suddenly one feels that this is the bed I want to get into, you know. Switch off all the lights, close the curtain, and go into a comfortable, long hibernation or something like that. Yes? So instead, then it says, and the Shantideva says, "Oh, what about this?" You know, and then who knows? Maybe the instinct of, I mean, I don't know if that's a nice word or right word, but Mother Nature or something like that, you know. In this case, that parenting nature sort of kicks in. Yes, whether we are physically a male or a female or something, doesn't matter. Something happens, you know. And like I said, it's a very strange thing. Instead of that thing should be owing to you, instead you feel that you almost feel as if you owe it to this thing, you know. But there is no sense of history or record. You have no connection whatsoever. Yeah? But nevertheless, you feel that way more than I owe you. You feel that I wish I don't know. I wish I knew what this thing wanted. I wish I knew this what this thing is crying for or something. Yeah? And so it begins. Yes. So then all that idea of a perfect world, a perfect universe, a perfect family, all of that just doesn't matter. Yeah? It's all gone. Yes. But the moment we forget this thing, you know, whatever it is, then it's possible. It's only natural almost, you know, to think, what if there was no disease? What if there were no arguments? What if we could all just synchronize or something? Yeah. Nothing wrong. Beautiful thought, yes. But doesn't really mean anything, doesn't go not any further. Yeah. It just stays there as a beautiful thought. But I think it doesn't go further than that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Karmapa. This explains to me I'm not going to be expecting an ideal society anytime soon.
Yes.
Thank you. This gave me a lot of relief for the future.
This very one will dissolve at some point, yes. I mean, it's going to dissolve on the eve of the 17th, right, also already. And of course we can take the comfort of thinking that next year, same time again, you know, we will regroup, but no. Either half of us are missing, or those of us are still coming back, are completely different people, you know. So there is no point of of this society. We would love, yes, but it's gone. It's going, 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 gone. Yes. Yes, at the back.
Your Holiness, dear Karmapa, I deeply appreciate the principles of Buddhism, loving kindness, compassion.
1, 2. Can we make it a little bit louder, please?
No, you just have to hold it a little bit closer.
Thank you. Your Holiness, I deeply appreciate the principles of Buddhism, loving kindness, compassion, morality, and other teachings that provide the importance of ethical foundation. I have arrived at these values in a rational way and find deep meaning in them. In my search of inner peace, I am in mental science, resilience. I have turned to Buddhism and practices. I have been practicing meditation for many years, but without rituals and symbolic attributes. And as I find it difficult to accept the magical aspects of the practice and the idea that ancient texts hold truth merely because of their age. 1-1. What should I do? Is there a place of Buddhism for someone who sincerely seeks a state of inner tranquility, embraces ethical essence, but cannot fully allow everything else? Should I attempt to practice even if I struggle to believe? I would be grateful for your advice and wisdom. Thank you.
Should I read this?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Sorry.
Dear and respected Karmapa, I deeply appreciate the principles of Buddhism, loving kindness, compassion, morality, and other teachings that provide an important ethical foundation. I have arrived at these values in a rational way and find deep meaning in them. In my search for inner peace and mental resilience, I have turned to Buddhism and its practices. I have been practicing meditation for many years, but without rituals or symbolic attributes, as I find it difficult to accept the magical aspects of the practice and the idea that ancient texts hold truth merely because of their age. What should I do? Is there a place in Buddhism for someone who sincerely seeks a state of inner tranquility, embraces its ethical essence, but cannot fully follow everything else? Should I attempt to practice even I struggle to believe? I would be grateful for your advice and wisdom.
Thank you. I was probably more stuck on that one word you said, magic. But that may be just my personal phobia, you know. But nevertheless, yes, I think the comforting thing about Buddhism, you know, is that we are not in any real way being forced into believing. Yes, and it's all quite analytical, practical, direct, and therefore I think it's fine. Yeah. If we don't feel a sense of spark or some sort of magic, no problem. We can continue to utilize this method in a very, very practical way, I think. And we don't have to think too much about, this lineage and this transmission and its heritage and so on. The only reason why we from time to time talk about a lineage or a transmission or something like that is more for our own doubt. Because obviously we can have doubts, yes, whether this method is just made up. Obviously it is made up, yes, but nevertheless not made up in a way that someone who had a wonderful trip just thought, wow, I'm free-flowing, and then gets published and gets very catchy and so on. Yeah. So it's not completely like that. Yes. And so therefore there's a reason why I think the biography or the story of Shakyamuni Buddha is there. And is to show that he had everything. Yeah. I mean, let's think of the most powerful family, let's say, in the world. First of all, the most powerful nation, then the most powerful society, then within that, the most powerful family, and finally, the most powerful being, or the person, or the family member in that, yes. And so it was, Siddhartha was just that, He had everything, yeah. Everything that a human can ask for, or in this case, everything a man can ask for, something like that. But nevertheless, was he content? No. Instead, he began to sort of now scratch, So, yeah, we see there's no, in this case, we don't have to talk about magic, and supernatural aspect of life, yeah. It was just when you have your wishes come true, then you're not happy, sort of thing. And so therefore he begins to sort of scratch. And yes. And now in this case, of course, why he was not happy with it is because probably one could say that this sensual and coarse and conditional state doesn't offer anything substantial, anything prominent. Yes. And so therefore now he's trying to look for what is often known as, in Sanskrit as amrita, or in English often translated as nectar. I suppose it's a similar thing to say, to look for death, deathless, Because now that you have everything, what is the one thing you don't have? Which is permanency, which is not age, not fall sick, and not die. And because those were the three main things, one could say, that he was most afraid of, And exactly those things appear. Yes. So we don't have, not necessarily it's magic, but psychologically that's the thing you fear the most, and that's the thing that you begin to see more. So whatever part of the palace or part of his kingdom he was going, because those were his fears, that was the thing that is appearing the most. Yeah. You could see a wrinkle on someone, you could see someone coughing or something. And but death probably was the least prominent one, maybe, because his father was going all out, with the somebody's about, just and so anyone who was dying, anybody who was starting to get sick, he just want them gone, But someone just, you cannot prepare for that, someone just collapsed in front of Siddhartha, and that was it, yes. So one could say he was even though he was in his 30s, yeah. So not completely a child, of course, but nevertheless being so protected. Obviously, there's a sort of a yes, there's a shock, yes, because obviously that must be the main fear, Of course, I'm portraying all of this in a very normal way, yes, without all the miraculous aspect. So, yes, then that made him realize that within his kingdom that there was no real logical means to conquer that, And everything seemed quite plastic, made up. Everybody was so like, but and laughing out loud. But he could kind of see through that it's not real laughter, So therefore, obviously, he wanted to look for something called genuine, And so therefore, he left. And the other part of the story I told yesterday, I think, yeah. So, yes, yes, it doesn't really need to be too magical, yeah, too fascinating. But if you just focus on that logic, it's not out of date, isn't it? It's not ancient, That's the same problem that is here, right now also, yes. We all have all these solutions about how to cure this disease, that disease, this poverty, this war, this economic recession, that economic crisis, And the moment you see that 3 or 4 advertisements are basically saying the same thing, normally you would wish out of the 4 competitors, one says, actually, this is the best one. But now you kind of know that each of them are saying the same thing, and you know that they're all offering the same thing, And then it kind of defeats the purpose of investing in any of those, So, yes, it's transmittable because it's not really made up. Yes? It's not out of time. It's the same thing, same problem. Yeah. And then each of the succession of so-called practitioners or disciples or students, their biography is equally interesting because, again, it's not copy-paste, 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 you know. Each of their biographies is different. Not one of them is the same. Yet, no matter how different it is, the problem is still the same, you know. And so therefore, it's transmittable, you know. Therefore, one could say there is a stream, there's a line. And so therefore, now what we have, we don't have to panic in a way. We can question, but if you, and it's a good thing to question, and the moment you question, there is an answer in a way. And the fundamental answer is that it's the same thing. Yeah. So it's okay. Yeah. You don't need magic. Okay, then maybe two last questions. Okay.
Thank you very much, Karmapa. I have a very common question, like this guy, but in a different way. I don't understand one thing about practice, about our practices, about visualization. Because if we look inside of Shine, if we practice Shine, we look inside of reality, we look inside of like all phenomena, but when we practice visualization, we do something new. We not just look inside of us, we imagine something new and do mantras and do all these things, but like we can just sit and look inside. And I really like trying to understand why we need in all of these methods. I'm not sure that's why it's correct question, but like for what or some, I don't know how to like ask this question, because like as I understand that Buddha Shakyamuni gives us Shine or Vipassana as method, and how it comes to us with all this like Vajrasattva meditation and I don't know, like all of this that we have. And I like it very much, but I really don't understand like how to explain to myself like what is the, not just the reason, like for what we're doing it, if we can just look and like, do you understand me, like my question?
I understand. No, it's well put. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a reason why we say these are formal practice, you know, formal methods. Meaning it's almost designed in such a way so that almost like saying all we have to do is just sit, yeah. And we don't have to do anything else. Yes. It's to make it as user-friendly as possible, yeah. As comfortable as possible. Yes. But there are more active and engaging methods? Of course. Fortunately, such methods are still existing. Yes. And so they are the semi-formal methods are there, such as maybe focusing on the breath, focusing on the most basic form of visualization, and so on. Normally, all those should come in the later verses, more or less. Maybe not too direct, but it's more or less there. Yeah. But before we do all those either formal or non-formal techniques, the motivation behind is very important, and that's why probably this literature focuses more on the motivation and mindset, But otherwise, yes, there are lots of techniques that we can use that is still available. Yeah. So we don't have to feel that they are like this, But that then becomes a little bit more individual. Yeah. Meaning, for example, if Chandesic meditation was a very unique technique, then it's possible that to some, maybe Chandesic meditation is not that interesting, not that meaningful, So therefore, then Chandesic technique can become more individualized. Yeah. So yes, it's something like that. Yes. But yeah, basic techniques are there, and from all of them, the breathing technique seems to be the best, because once again, it's effortless, because that's what we are doing. It's one activity that we do whether we are awake or asleep, And so therefore, we don't need to say, okay, now I breathe, and now I pause, or something like that. It's constantly happening. And in terms of visualization also, it's more or less the same. Actually, we are constantly visualizing. We just don't realize it. So, the moment we hear a certain word, if you talk about a certain sunset or a landscape or something, immediately, even with our eyes open, we can see a certain, landscape of, of a certain sunset or sunrise or something. Already we can see it. Similarly, sight, taste, touch, smell. We can talk about, cinnamon bun, or coffee, Even though it's not here, we can almost feel like I can smell it, Yeah. So, yeah, lots of techniques, But obviously, the techniques that are often described or prescribed are not something in this case that will make you feel, I want that, No. So it will not talk about some chocolate cake or something, the flavor of it or something too vulgar, like that of Harpic. Well, I don't know how it is in Europe, but here we have this blue soap called Harpic. You know, it's to clean the toilet. Anyway, so we use certain technique that is so neutral, yet at the same time it's engaging, at the same time it's hard to say whether it's distracting, but at the same time it has a quality to make us not get distracted on other things. And through it, then we are more calm, that to a point where the only thing from that calm state is such that we are only interested in truly productive things. Yeah. Because the more calm you are, the more you are aware of all the previous engagements, you know, and the more you realize that those engagements are kind of not fruitful. You can kind of go through the whole ABCD and the whole history, and you can see the result already, you know. And so therefore, how to say, engaging in argument, let's say, engaging in, I don't know, not to say friendship, but engaging in meaningless, mingling, busyness, that somehow it's not productive enough. Yeah. So the only thing, from that clarity, from that state of calmness, and through that clarity, the only thing you will see are just one or two, probably one. Yeah. One thing alone, probably, that is most productive. And that is none other than to focus on bodhicitta. It becomes clear. So now that clarity, that understanding, that realization is coming from now for the first time on your own. Yeah. It's not because someone told you to do, that you were ordered at gunpoint. You be kind or I shoot you, you know. But in this case, you really realize on your own that it makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah. So no, there are techniques. Yes, there are lots of techniques. So we don't have to feel that, okay, we are concluding the session with Shantideva meditation, which is wonderful, but it becomes too premeditated or something, you know? No. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so then the last one.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, very sorry. Maybe, yeah, okay,
Huh?
I already have it. Okay. Thank you to Gyalwa Karmapa.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask a question that is connected to the root text and to some of the previous questions about earning a living and working and then coming back home and sitting on the couch. So in that sense, I was thinking about this idea of perfect society that we strive for, in sense that, for example, now we live in the age when the environment and the climate change is a big topic, like the air pollution, the water pollution, the soil pollution. We can feel it when we go to Bodh Gaya, even, for example. And like, do you think that striving to return the balance of humans and the nature is possible?
It's possible. We just have to press the nuclear bomb switch, you know. Everything will become. Give or take 50 years, and all will be okay, you know. Because that's the kind of state we are in right now. Yes. So everybody's wishing, not wishing, sorry. No, everybody's kind of anxious about who will press the button, you know. And yes, yeah. But I think the case is that the person who doesn't want to commit suicide, the person who continuously talks about how bad it is to commit suicide is probably the one most likely to commit suicide, you know. So, yeah. So therefore, if we are kind of, in this case, oblivious or ignorant, probably the better in a way. Not that that's going to help or anything, but meaning no point worrying. Yeah. No point worrying about about the result, one could say. Yes. And for some reason, in a similar way, the one who's trying to give lectures and give, I don't know, meaning coming from a very good heart, of course, to say how bad it is to commit suicide and all that, yes. In the same way, the opposite state, if you can just, I'm just trying to straighten my back, yes. If you can just be more concerned about the mental health, one could say. Well, that still doesn't sound right, but the attitude, yes, the attitude towards life, probably that's in an indirect way, in the most indirect way, is going to do something, I think, yes. And the nature itself doesn't need saving, yes. Probably it's kind of, Mother Nature is kind of waiting for that nuclear war, you know, so that it can just do her thing and finally take over, you know. And these so-called humans, you know, you know. But yes, now our case is if he can be that calm, you know, if he can be that, not to say not concerned, not worry about pollution, ecological situation, and of course every day we are dealing with it. Now I know that this is easy, you know. Even after the Holi, yes. So, yes, it's strange. the more we are concerned, the worse it sort of gets, but it's not also completely saying do just the opposite and it will take care. It's also not really like that. By saying, don't be now someone's conscious, therefore being less bothered, it will fix everything. I don't think so. It's just there's no. It's the realization of knowing that there is no way to fix it, and the full acceptance of it. So yes, it's like saying it's a larger scale of your body, that it is decaying, it is aging, it is having lots of wrinkles, and a lot of pimples, a lot of diseases and so on, just like our body would, the simple body would. On a larger scale, it's happening, but we just cannot do anything really about it. And the more we try to fix it, the worse it seems to get. So instead, try to learn from this that this is every time. This is how it is every time when we are in a conditioned world. So now, if you would. Maybe this will make sense to talk about this chapter. Yes. It says, in short, it talks a lot about desire. Yes. Because this is known as, I forget the Sanskrit term now. The sensory world, sensual world, or physical world, or coarse world. And so, when we are born within the coarse world, it's most obvious. It's like this. It will come down, and then we will almost feel like now we have peace, But no, very soon again it will change. But nevertheless, this universe is supposed to be in its own right. It is still in its own adolescent or even a state of puberty state, yes, and it will still go on and up and down for many, through many cycles. So this is not the end of the world. But nevertheless, it still gives us the opportunity to realize that this is the state we are living in, and one can say, then now how about we migrate to Mars, or to Titan or something, or in another universe altogether or something. Now that's where Shantideva is trying to say, hold on, because no point doing that, because it's only a postponement, if you do that, if you make that way for yourself. Instead, recognize it and know that if you create a similar pattern, then you will be back to square one. So therefore now think wisely, And if you think calmly, so therefore calm, and through that calmness then you will gain a certain insight, and through that insight then you will do, not to say the right thing, but you will focus on something that is way more productive. And so therefore there are countless of verses that praises the bodhicitta. Says that of all the wealth, of all the ideas, of all the mental activities, or of all the concentration of all the productive things that we can imagine, that this is it. And in terms of health, wealth, well, what we have here is nothing compared to the beings of this world and of higher world. They have far better health, they have far better longevity, they have far better wealth. I mean, wealth that we could just simply not imagine. In here we only have a certain amount of gold, certain amount of silver, certain amount of petrol, and a certain amount of trees which we could turn into paper. But there are realms where, they own galaxies and galaxies, and so therefore our wealth means nothing compared to theirs. And they have lifespans that last for eons. And so therefore, that particular chapter of Shakyamuni Buddha taking one of his cousin brothers, I think his name is Nanda, not Ananda, the other one, Nanda. Because he was very attached to what he thought is it, Not in a way that he was too ambitious or something. He thought what he had was it, and he couldn't let go of it, And that was his obstacle. And so Shakyamuni Buddha, not because he was, because he was his cousin or something, but he could see that this person is bright enough in every way, It just, he has one distraction. So therefore, then it is said that he took him everywhere. He took him to Mars, he took him to Titan, he took him to Jupiter, everywhere. And then he saw that what he thought he had actually meant nothing compared to that. And then he also took him to, to very volatile universes also, and said that people will do anything to acquire these means, these health and wealth and youth and everything. And at what cost, they wouldn't even bother until it's too late. The consequence that they will experience to themselves as an individual and to the rest. So then, finally, once he saw all of that, then he calmed down and then saw that the only logical thing, pleasing thing that is worthwhile was none other than bodhicitta. So same thing. I'm not saying focus on bodhicitta and the climate will begin to cool, and there will be less earthquake, and that there will be less war or something like that, or less famine. It's not a fairy tale, of course, But the thing is, that the main point is we just cannot fix it. We cannot save this world. We can do many, many good things, to give everyone or as many breather, that are possible, to others, those who are feeling hopeless, helpless. We can give them hope. We can give them a sense of peace, hopefully calmness. But can we end this, stop this. No, it has to somehow go through its own cycle. Yeah? And it's not like it's a debt or something, that needs to be paid or something. The conditioned world is always like this. It has always been like this, and it will always be like this. And so therefore there's no point in trying to feel that, because I'm a Bodhisattva, I must try to save it, And so if there's one form of saving, is to give others a breather, and hopefully through that breather, it will gain enough clarity and focus on something more meaningful, And yes. So then, now we focus on Chenrezig, yes. And if you know, then when you do the Chenrezig meditation or the Mahakala meditation or Pure Land meditation, you can focus on your breath at the same time, You can focus on the breath at the same time. And when you do the Chenrezig, just focus on maybe one aspect of the visualization, maybe just on his nose, or just on one of his arms, or something like that. But overall, as long as these methods help us to distract ourselves from anger, from attachment, meaning anything that makes us feel stuck, stuck. I mean, anger can be the same thing. We think about something that angers us and then get stuck. We think we are focusing on something that makes us envious and get stuck there. There is no real separate desire or separate anger. It's the same thing. It's just that we want to have a 360 degree or understanding of this, what is known in Sanskrit as klesha, the thing that simply makes us feel stuck. So therefore, then we can think, we can realize that, okay, when I do this meditation, in between, if you have some space, or meaning particularly when you're reciting the mantra, because now there it's repetitive, so therefore you're more relaxed, you don't have to think too intricate, or the vowels or the words, And so there you could reflect and see, am I being stuck anywhere, If you're stuck, then come back, come back. Come back to the meditation of Chenrezig. But now, are you thinking, are you too comfortable, sort of, now having all sorts of ideas about this Chenrezig and so on, and drifting off, Then again, come back. Otherwise, the general nature of this meditation is supposed to help us not get stuck anywhere. It's supposed to make us flow freely. So that's the purpose.